The morning erupted with a clamor so absurd, I thought it was a prank from a local radio show. A battered pickup truck wheezed down my gravel driveway at dawn, kicking up a dust cloud that smothered the air before my rooster could even crow. Out stepped a woman in stilettos, a neon pink blazer so garish it sent my goats scrambling, and a clipboard clutched like it was etched in gold. She stormed to my porch, slapped a rolled-up notice against my door, and bellowed loud enough to spook the mules. By order of the Meadowview Homeowners Association, you're notified of eviction in 30 days for failing to meet aesthetic standards. I stood there, barefoot, coffee mug in hand, head still foggy from sleep, staring in disbelief. "Lady," I said, "this is a farm. You're 5 miles past your cookie-cutter suburbs." She didn't flinch. That's when I knew this wasn't a joke, it was a declaration of war, and they had no idea they'd just tried to evict the county judge. When Cynthia Reynolds introduced herself as Meadowview HOA president, my patience started fraying like a worn-out lasso. She launched into a rant about new community boundaries, visual mandates, and compliance deadlines, spitting the word violation 7 times before I could set my mug down. My barn, she claimed, was an eyesore ruining the scenic harmony of their expanded territory. My mules were disruptive livestock, and the fence I'd built 12 years ago was substandard. I tried to speak, but she tossed me a pamphlet titled Meadowview, Crafting a Flawless Future, and kept going. I unrolled the notice she'd taped to my door, a shoddy document riddled with typos and bizarre legal jargon. At the bottom was a signature from someone claiming to be the county registrar. Problem was, I knew every registrar in this county, and that name didn't exist. A chill ran down my spine. Cynthia, misreading my silence as surrender, patted my arm like I was a senile old man. "I know this is overwhelming," she said, "but you have 30 days to vacate, or we'll enforce removal." I stared at her, long and hard, before speaking. "Cynthia," I said, "do you know who I am?" She smirked. "A farmer, obviously clueless about modern zoning." I smiled, slow and sharp. "I'm also the county judge." Her scoff was instant. "And that's supposed to scare me?" I held up the notice. "It should, because whoever forged this just signed themselves up for a legal nightmare." Her smug grin flickered, but she rallied. "Our legal team has vetted everything," she insisted, though her voice wavered. Adjusting her oversized sunglasses, she vowed to return with proper authorities and strutted back to her truck like a low-budget movie villain. I watched her go, already dialing the county recorder's office. Inside, I tossed the notice on my kitchen table and called my clerk, Sarah. She picked up instantly. "Sarah, dig up every filing from Meadowview HOA in the last 6 months and check for anything under Cynthia Reynolds' name, especially with fake titles." Sarah, who could spot a forged notarization from a mile away, was on it. I poured fresh coffee and stepped onto the porch, gazing at the fields my great-grandfather had worked. No clipboard-wielding tyrant in a pink blazer was turning my farm into a suburban lawn. Later, I rode out to the west fence, where my neighbor's land touched the edge of Meadowview. "Old MS." Thompson flagged me down, waving an identical notice, same typos, same fake signature. This wasn't a mistake. It was a land grab banking on folks not knowing their rights. Too bad for them. I wasn't just a farmer. I was the law, and I was ready to wield it. The HOA's antics escalated fast. Cynthia's compliance team started loitering outside my property in a golf cart with a flashing orange light, snapping photos of my barn, well, and tractor. I caught them measuring my shed like they were planning to raise it. When I approached, they sped off like kids caught spray painting. Cynthia sent 2 more citations, one for improper hay storage, another for unsightly dirt mounds. I nailed a sign to my gate. "Trespassers will be judged." Sarah called back with a gold mine. Meadowview's filings were a mess of illegal zoning claims, unapproved expansion maps, and a notarization seal discontinued years ago. It was all fakey, a house of cards built on lies and HOA arrogance. The final straw came when Cynthia sent a final eviction notice, delivered by 2 teenagers in neon vests on skateboards. I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my coffee. They asked me to sign for it. I invited them in for iced tea, took their clipboard, and wrote "Void County Judge" across it. They wobbled off, clearly out of their depth. That night, I stood on my deck, watching the sun sink over the pasture. My mules grazed, oblivious to the chaos. Cynthia thought she was bullying a quiet farmer. She didn't know she'd picked a fight with a judge who wrote the laws she was trying to twist. Court was coming, and I was ready. The next morning, I marched into the county recorder's office with a box of fake citations, forged maps, and screenshots from Meadowview's website. The receptionist's eyes widened as I dropped Cynthia's jurisdiction map on the counter. "This looks like a kindergartner drew it," she muttered. "It's being used to evict people who never joined this HOA," I said, "including me." The deputy clerk confirmed my farm was zoned agricultural, untouchable by any HOA. Within hours, we verified Cynthia's expansion was unapproved, claiming land it had no right to, including mine and 3 others. It violated an ordinance I'd authored 6 years ago. I left with certified documents and a fire in my gut. At the zoning department, I pulled the original Meadowview plat maps. Their boundary stopped a mile short of my fence. Cynthia's map was a fantasy, swallowing creeks, roads, and private plots. The zoning officer, a young woman named Mia, asked, "What's your plan, Judge?" I grinned. "I'm going to show them what happens when you try to scam a court with a doodle." That afternoon, a Meadowview volunteer approached with another mandatory compliance check. I took his clipboard, saw the same fake format, and asked his name. "Jake," he stammered. "They said I'd get free dues for helping." I snapped the clipboard in half. "Tell Cynthia her check just became a criminal case. And Jake, stick to fixing fences." That night, I drafted an injunction request, sending it to Judge Ellen Harper in neighboring Ridge County, who despised HOA overreach. She fast-tracked the hearing, chuckling when I described Cynthia's map. "She annexed your farm?" she said. "That's like claiming a military base because you trimmed its hedges." The town meeting was Cynthia's last stand, held in Meadowview's shiny community center. The flyer called it a compliance summit, but it was her stage to flex power. I showed up in jeans and a faded flannel, hat low, blending into the back row. The room buzzed with confused residents and nosy retirees. Cynthia took the podium like a game show host, her pink thermos gleaming. "Welcome, Meadowview family," she chirped, projecting a warped map with red zones she claimed were now HOA territory. The crowd tensed. She unveiled a slide on eviction protocols, casually outlining how to oust non-compliant residents. A man up front asked, "Are you talking about kicking people out of their homes?" Cynthia smiled. "Only if they resist progress." Then she showed my barn, labeled slated for demolition. I stood, slow and deliberate. All eyes turned. Cynthia froze, her grin twisting into panic. "Mr. Landon," she stammered, "this is for members only." I removed my hat. "Then call security," I said, "because you just slandered a county judge in front of 70 witnesses." Gasps rippled through the room. Someone dropped their water bottle. Cynthia tried to rally. "You can't intimidate us," she snapped. I pulled out a folder. "This proves you forged zoning maps, fake citations, and overstepped your charter by miles. I filed an injunction, and a judge will hear it Friday." Her voice pitched up. "This is harassment. I decide what happens in Meadowview." The room went silent. I stayed calm. "You're an HOA president, Cynthia, not a dictator. And your throne's about to burn." I handed a USB to a woman recording in the front. "Play it," I said. The projector flickered, showing Cynthia at Thompson's gate, threatening to seize her chickens over odor violations. Other clips showed her bullying a young couple over a porch swing and mocking a retiree's garden for clashing with curb appeal. Cynthia lunged for the cable, but the woman blocked her. "It's public now," she said. Someone shouted, "Call the sheriff." Another yelled, "You're delusional." Her board members backed away, one muttering, "We thought this was legal." The meeting collapsed into chaos. I walked out as Cynthia's screams echoed, her empire crumbling in real time. The Ridge County Courthouse was a solid old building, its stone walls heavy with history. I arrived early, dressed in my judge's coat not for show, but to remind everyone what was at stake. A crowd gathered outside, news crews circling for shots of the HOA president who tried to evict a judge with a fake map. Cynthia arrived late in a polished SUV, clutching a binder, her pink blazer faded by nerves. She dodged cameras and slipped inside. The hearing room was packed. Judge Harper presided, her sharp gaze cutting through the tension. I introduced myself as William Landon, landowner and victim of HOA fraud. Cynthia's lawyer fumbled, calling her president of the expanded Meadowview. Harper raised an eyebrow. Expanded since when? The tone was set. I presented the original Meadowview boundaries, then Cynthia's bloated map claiming land it couldn't touch. The contrast was absurd. This was used to threaten evictions, I said, handing over fake citations, videos, and affidavits from neighbors. Harper grilled Cynthia. Did you authorize these? Cynthia trembled. I thought we had authority. From whom? Harper pressed. Cynthia had no answer. Her lawyer's draft proposal excuse fell apart. A handwriting analyst confirmed the forged signatures, with Cynthia's name at the core. The gavel slammed. Meadowview is guilty of misrepresentation, forgery, and unauthorized enforcement, Harper ruled. The map is void, citations rescinded, and the HOA's charter is under review. MS. Reynolds is liable for all false filings and barred from civic roles pending investigation. Cynthia gasped, her face ashen. Her lawyer's plea for a stay was shot down. You abused the system, Harper said. This court won't indulge it. Outside, reporters swarmed Cynthia, who mumbled weak excuses. My neighbors met me on the steps, Thompson with a nod, Maria with a hug, one with a grin. The fallout was swift. Meadowview's charter was suspended, its board dissolved, and residents began opting out. Cynthia vanished, rumored to be fleeing the state, her name now a local punchline. I returned to my farm, hanging a sign, protected by judicial ordinance. Violators prosecuted. Judge Harper sent me her old gavel, which I hung in my study. It wasn't about land, it was about power, about lies cloaked in paperwork. Cynthia thought her title made her invincible. She forgot titles mean nothing when you break the law. Weeks later, the farm was peaceful again. No golf carts, no notices, just quiet. I threw a farm bash with lanterns, a bluegrass band, and hay bales. Neighbors danced, kids played, and we pinned Cynthia's notice to a dartboard, riddling, non-compliant, with holes. A reporter asked what I'd learned. People fear paperwork more than fences, I said. Cynthia didn't need an army, just a clipboard and fake authority. The danger's in the quiet threats, not the loud ones. But one person saying no can stop it. A new cooperative formed, not an HOA, just neighbors helping neighbors. I stayed on the sidelines, boots by the door, files ready. One day, I saw Cynthia at a gas station, handing out flyers for a dog walking service, her swagger gone. I tipped my hat as I passed. She froze, eyes wide, then looked away. That was enough. I'd won not with rage, but with the law, the land, and the truth. My farm stood firm.